And once more, we grieve. For you and your families, no words can ease the ache of your heart. No deeds can fill the empty places in your homes. But on this day and all that follow, you may find solace in the memory of those you loved, and know that you have the unending support of the American people.
That was President Obama speaking this morning at the Pentagon on the 8th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks. Welcome back to Bloomberg. Afghanistan has received more than $20 billion since 2001 from international donors. Where has all that money gone? Gilles Dorronsoro is a visiting scholar at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. His research focuses on Afghanistan. He just got back from spending a month there. He joins us now live from Washington to tell us what he has found. Gilles, it is fitting that we're talking about Afghanistan today, 8 years after the September 11th attacks. That Taliban-led Afghani government at the time having harbored the mastermind of those attacks, Osama bin Laden. How far has Afghanistan itself come in terms of security, in terms of development in those 8 years?
Well, I would say that after my last trip in April 2009, I thought that we were losing the war. After 1 month in Afghanistan in August, I would qualify that. I would say we are losing the war quickly. So the overall situation is quite bad. And what we are seeing now is the insurgency extending its influence in the north of Afghanistan, and the coalition forces are much more on the defensive right now.
A report out today that the top commander of U.S. and international forces in Afghanistan, that's General Stanley McChrystal, said that at this point there is no sign of a major al-Qaeda presence within that country at this time. When you say we are losing the war, are you disagreeing with that? Is al-Qaeda still active within Afghanistan?
No, absolutely not. I do not disagree. Actually, al-Qaeda is not in Afghanistan, but that's not a new thing, you know. Al-Qaeda is perfectly satisfied with what's going on in Afghanistan, a war that is a quagmire for us. So al-Qaeda is much more active in Pakistan because they need cities, they need modern connection to plan attacks against Western countries. They have no business fighting a guerrilla war in Afghanistan right now.
The chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Senator Carl Levin, said today that the Obama administration should focus on doubling the size of Afghan security forces and persuading Taliban fighters to join the government side right now. Is forces, building up more U.S. or international forces, the solution here, or are we looking at a question of economic development, something more?
Well, actually, the idea that we can get some Taliban to rally the government is, I mean, it's over-optimistic. It never worked, and I'm not sure it's going to work when the Taliban are winning the war. So this is not realistic. The other option is to build up Afghan forces. It's going to be extremely difficult, and it's going to take a few years, you know. So it's not a short-term solution. Right now, what is the major story about Afghanistan is that the big offensive in the province of Helmand, south of Afghanistan, totally failed. So in very concrete terms, we don't have a working strategy in Afghanistan right now. So instead of focusing on a number of troops, 20, 30, 40,000, we should ask the question, why is that not working, and what should we do?
We were just showing video there of poppy plants on screen as you were speaking. The opium trade, the drug trade, one of the industries, unfortunately, that seems to have flourished within Afghanistan. When you say doing something more, what do you mean exactly? Is it continuing to pay farmers not to grow certain kinds of crops? Does aid need to be diverted in a more specific way?
Well, first thing, the drugs is not a major source of financing for the Taliban. So even if you can get rid of opium in Afghanistan, it's not going to be the end of the insurgency. That's the major point. According to a recent CIA report, it's probably around $70 million a year. And frankly, the Taliban can do without drugs. Now, if you want to speak about drugs, the major thing right now is that overproduction of opium in Afghanistan. So even if we are not doing anything, there will be less opium crops next year, simply because the prices are falling down very quickly. So I don't think it's a major issue in Afghanistan right now. What could be an issue is development of rural areas in Afghanistan, but that's a separate thing.
And how is that development of those rural areas going to happen?
Well, I would say that so far we focused on places where the war was very intense, the fighting was very intense, especially the south and east. For example, per capita, the Helmand province, where we lost actually more than 200 men since 2001, got some $250 per capita. In the north, where the situation is quiet, it's more likely to be 50 or less than 50. So what we have to do mostly is to invest money where the situation is quiet, because there we can control what's happening to the money, and we can have real successes. What we are doing now is creating a war economy, and the Taliban are taking their share of this war economy. We are funding the Taliban, actually. Sending money to places where we have no control, we are funding the Taliban.
Wow. Gilles Dorronsoro, Afghanistan expert, the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, just got back from a month on the ground there. Thank you so much for your perspective. And we will continue to follow the Afghani election results as there is some contention over whether or not the election results can be officially declared at this point. We're expecting that perhaps this week.